everybody. This is Momma Grace, and welcome to our campsite. Papa Joe and I and Ella are camping this week, and I'm glad you could join us. We're reading some really fun stories this week that correspond with nature a lot, and those are the Frog and Toad stories. I love the Frog and Toad stories by Arnold Lobel, and we're going to read several more. So this is really fun. I hope you got to see the last one we did, which was called Spring, and it was the story of Frog and Toad in the spring. And today we're going to do another one. Now, I do have a nice cold drink because it's kind of hot out today. It's a Zevia Cola, so it doesn't have sugar, which is nice. I prefer it. So I like the stevia taste that is in this Coke. And it's in my little can cozy that says America. So, God bless America. And look what I have today. Look! Isn't that awesome? It's a little ball cap with Frog and Toad. And I'm so excited about it. So I'm going to wear that today while we read. Okay? There we go. And we're about ready to get started. I guess this needs no more introduction. We're just going to go ahead and start the story. I have my little ribbon right in the right spot. There we go. This is called the story. One day in summer, Frog was not feeling well. Toad said, "Frog, you are looking quite green." "But I always look green," said Frog. "I am a frog." "Today you look very green, even for a frog," said Toad. "Get into my bed and rest." Toad made Frog a cup of hot tea. Frog drank the tea, and then he said, "Tell me a story while I'm resting." "All right," said Toad. "Let me think of a story to tell you." Toad thought and thought, but he could not think of a story to tell Frog. "I will go out on the front porch and walk up and down," said Toad. "Perhaps that will help me to think of a story." Toad walked up and down on the porch for a long time, but he could not think of a story to tell Frog. Then Toad went into the house and stood on his head. "Why are you standing on your head?" asked Frog. "I hope that if I stand on my head, it will help me to think of a story," said Toad. Toad stood on his head for a long time, but he could not think of a story to tell Frog. Do you ever stand on your head? I used to stand on my head. I would usually do it alongside the wall so I could prop my feet a little bit and cheat just a little bit, because I couldn't do it straight up on the floor. Then Toad poured a glass of water over his head. "Why are you pouring water over your head?" asked Frog. "I hope that if I pour water over my head, it will help me to think of a story," said Toad. Toad poured many glasses of water over his head, but he could not think of a story to tell Frog. Then Toad began to bang his head against the wall. "Oh, no. Why are you banging your head against the wall?" asked Frog. "I hope that if I bang my head against the wall hard enough, it will help me to think of a story," said Toad. "I'm feeling much better now, Toad," said Frog. "I do not think I need a story anymore." "Then you get out of the bed and let me get into it," said Toad, "because now I feel terrible." Frog said, "Would you like me to tell you a story, Toad?" "Yes," said Toad, "if you know one." "Once upon a time," said Frog, "there were two good friends, a frog and a toad. The frog was not feeling well. He asked his friend the toad to tell him a story. The toad could not think of a story. He walked up and down on the porch, but he could not think of a story. He stood on his head, but he could not think of a story. He poured water over his head, and he still could not think of a story. He banged his head against the wall, but he still could not think of a story. Then the toad did not feel so well. and the frog was feeling better. So the toad went to bed, and the frog got up and told him a story. The end. How was that, Toad? Said Frog. But Toad did not answer. He had fallen asleep. And that's the end of the story, called The Story. Wasn't that great? I hope you don't ever bang your head against the wall when you're feeling frustrated or trying to think of things. That's probably why Toad didn't feel well. It's not a good idea. You know, one thing I love about Frog and Toad is how they're friends. And they're so different. They're very different. And you know what? We can have friends that are very different than we are. But we can appreciate our differences and love each other and take care of each other like Frog and Toad do. They do that all the time. They help each other out. And I love that. It's just really nice. So I hope you enjoyed this story of Frog and Toad called The Story. And I hope you can join us again for our next story, which, let me tell you what it's going to be. Let's look. It's going to be a story called A Lost Button. That's the one we're going to do next. And we'll do it while we are still here camping, which is a lot of fun. So I hope you have a great week and a great day. I hope you're safe and that you're happy and that you feel loved. And remember that Momma Grace is always here, and I'm always thinking of you, and I'm looking forward to seeing you again. So goodbye, but just for now.